Good morning, everybody. Welcome. This is our Tuesday, February 20th, regular meeting of the Mason County Commission. We will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Lieutenant Adams, would you please do us the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner District 2, Kevin Schutte.
Here.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Drexler.
Here.
Thank you. Item number 4 is correspondence and organizational business. Could you please bring forward the correspondence for us?
So Patricia Gerald and Laurelyn Rogers both sent in applications for the Mason County Historic Preservation Commission, and the Washington State Department of Natural Resources sent a letter regarding revenue to counties from state forest transfer and purchase lands between 2008 and 2017.
Is there any other correspondence or organizational business to come before us?
No.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 5. Item number 5 is our open forum for citizens' input. This is your opportunity to come and speak to the commission on any item that is not on the agenda. If it is on the agenda, we ask that you wait, come forward at that time, or even if you have to have it pulled off, and you'll be given an opportunity to testify. But if you have an issue that's not on the agenda, you can have up to 5 minutes per person, 15 minutes total for everybody, so please be brief if you can. With that being said, is there anybody in the audience today who would like to speak to the commission on any item that is not on the agenda? Excellent. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of today's agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for the adoption of today's agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 7, approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move the approval of the February 12, 2018 briefing minutes, February 13, 2018 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the approval of the February 12, 2018 briefing minutes and the February 13, 2018 regular meeting minutes. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 No opposed? Motion carries. Next is item number 8, approval of our action agenda. All items listed under the action agenda may be enacted by one motion unless a commissioner or citizens requests an item be removed from the action agenda and considered as a separate item. We will read them to you, and after we do, you'll be given an opportunity to ask a question that may help you to make that decision on whether you want something taken off or not. Commissioner Drexler, would you please read 8.1 through 8.3? Commissioner Schutte, would you please read 8.4 through 8.6, and I will read 8.7 through 8.9.
Mr. Chair, on today's action agenda, item 8.1, approval to authorize the county engineer to execute the County Road Administration Board Rural Arterial Program prospectus for the County Road Culvert Replacement Project on North Shore Road, 2 County Road Realignment Projects on Quaquallum Road, a County Road Realignment Project on Old Belfair Highway, and approval to authorize the chair to sign all pertinent documents for the projects. 8.2, approval to set a hearing for Tuesday, March 13th, 2018 at 9:30 a.m. to receive public comment and take action on the private line occupancy permit granting permission to run a septic transport line and power under Nowatzel Beach Drive. 8.3, approval to adopt a resolution to update the Mason County credit card policy and procedures by amending resolution number 96-05.
Item 8.4, approval to adopt a resolution authorizing the Support Services Department to pay certain internal service charges and the cost allocation of the State Auditor Annual Audit and Washington County's Risk Pool Self-Insurance Premiums. Item 8.5, approval of the 2017 Oath of Inventory pursuant to RCW 36.32.210 and Mason County Code Chapter 3.56. Item 8.6, approval to have the board sign a 1-year Mason County Park Host contract with a provision for extending additional years with agreement from both parties for the following: Joshua and Amanda Eichelberger for Mason Lake, Victor Kolfelt for Foothills Park, Shelley Warren for MCRA, and John and Kathy Corbett for Oakland Bay.
Item number 8.7 reads, approval to have the board sign the memorandum of agreement, Appendix A, between Mason County and Washington State University Extension. Item number 8.8, approval to have the chair sign agreement number 16-PA-11060900-006, modification number 2 between the USDA Forest Service and Mason County Noxious Weed Control Board. Item number 8.9, approval of the Cooperative Law Enforcement Agreement, FS Agreement 18-LE-11060900-010, between the Mason County Sheriff's Office and the USDA Forest Olympic National Forest. Now that these have been read to you, is there anybody in the public who has any questions that would help them to decide whether or not to have this taken off for a separate vote? Yes.
Item 8.4, how much are we talking about with your internal service control or service charge and the cost allocation?
Frank, do you know that?
Somewhere close to $1 million.
Combined?
Correct.
And that was budgeted for?
Yes, all of it's budgeted.
Any further questions? With that being put before you, is there anybody in the audience who would like an item taken off for a separate vote? Commissioners?
No.
Then I will entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move the approval of items 8.1 through 8.9 on today's action agenda.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded for the approval of the full action agenda, items number 8.1 through 8.9. Any further discussion or comments?
Just want to thank our financial tech, Jessica, for your work on these, updating these policies, and appreciate the effort on those.
All right, hearing nothing further, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. All of the motion, all the items on the action agenda pass. Item number 9, other business, department heads and elected officials. Item number 9.1, bid announcement award for the 2018 asphalt emulsion contract and the 2018 manufacturing stockpiling of chip seal aggregate contract. John. Hey guys, have you ever held John accountable to where he is and everything? 'Cause
Yes.
Oh, we did? Shoot, 'cause we're gonna have extra time here.
But you're welcome to talk more about the projects that
Good
we're
morning, Mr.
looking
Chairman
at.
and Board. I'm here today to announce a couple of bid awards that we're making for, or recommending for our chip seal operations program for this summer. The 2018 asphalt emulsion contract and the 2018 manufacturing and stockpiling of chip seal aggregate contract. The first contract, the asphalt emulsion, the bids were opened on 1/26 of 2018, and we only had one bidder, and that was Albina Asphalt out of Vancouver, Washington. And essentially, this bid is based on per ton price. It wasn't a total amount of tons, although we have an estimated amount for our program annually, but however many tons we buy is, so we've got the prices per ton and the prices for shipping on that. The second portion of our chip seal is the aggregate, so we put out a bid for manufacturing of the aggregate for the chip seal. We had that being delivered to 4 different locations around the county based on our needs for the summer operation. There was a total of 10,420 cubic yards that was put out for bid. We had 5 different bidders. The low bidder was Sterling Breen out of Centralia, Washington. That low bid was $10,106.88, less than our estimated engineer's estimate for the item. So it was within budget. Both of these are within our budget for the program this year, and we're recommending that they be awarded to the low bidders. So, is there any questions on that?
Any questions, Commissioner?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
you're looking for a time killer. I'm wondering if our Mr. Husis would feel comfortable talking about what we just approved on the perspectives for the RAP program.
Sure, I can mention a little bit about that. Every 2 years, the County Road Administration Board puts out a call for projects for under the Rural Arterial Preservation Program, and there's a couple of county routes that qualify. They'd be what we call our 07 and 08. They're major collectors and minor collectors in the rural areas, and they basically have a application process that consists of a lot of basically parameters of the road that qualify for funding. For example, the surface type, the width, number of accidents, horizontal and vertical geometry, and things like that. And so basically the counties in the state are eligible to apply for those two types of classified roads, and based on this, how they score, then the CRAB awards projects to those counties that have higher priority roads. And we typically get at least one project out of that program. And this year, counties are eligible for up to $1.1 million. And so initially you put in, you could put in up to 5 projects. We're putting in 4 for our application this year. And we expect that based on our initial look at the projects, the old Belfair Highway right out of Belfair is the section that looks like it scores the best according to our numbers. So we're expecting that will probably score well enough to get funded, and we'll utilize all of the $1.1 million.
And the RAP money is, what's the source of these funds?
It's CRAB. Basically, CRAB takes down, there's a set aside off the top of the gas tax that goes through CRAB to the counties, and they issue that out in a competitive program.
Thank you.
Okay.
Since you're there, does anybody have any questions for him? Want to know anything more? Yes.
Yes,
Andy Conley.
I've recommended this before. Check with the culverts under the road there where you built, because the Indians might require more for the salmon runs. So you could save yourself a lot of trouble.
Appreciate that, Conley. Yes, that's generally part of our standard operating procedure, so
Okay,
I appreciate the heads up.
thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, are there any other department heads or elected officials who'd like to speak at this time? And hearing none, we'll go ahead and bypass item number 10, because we cannot start item number 10 until 9:30 on the dot. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and jump over to item number 11, which is our board reports and calendars. Or, Commissioners, would you rather take a break and do the board reports afterwards? Or
Either way,
Do it now.
we can do it
do it
now.
now? Okay, you go ahead and go first, Commissioner.
Okay. Following last week's meeting, let's see, on Wednesday, the 14th, they had a meeting of the Olympic Region Clean Air Authority. We reviewed and will potentially be approving a letter to the Liquor Control Board to look for some better coordination with the Liquor Cannabis Board and the Olympic Region Clean Air Authority on notification of cannabis growers. We do register them because they are a pollution source, but we don't get full recognition or full notification of folks who have been issued a license. And this is an issue for counties as well, and we've noted the problems we've had in trying to make sure that folks who've been licensed actually do come through the county and get the rest of their permits, and the same is the issue with the Olympic Region Clean Air Authority. Simultaneously, Representative Condata had sent a query to the Attorney General's office regarding whether Olympic Region, or whether air control agencies have the authority to ask these cannabis producers to register. I think since the production of marijuana, recreational marijuana became legal, that is probably the biggest body of work for the Clean Air Authority, is to chase down odor complaints. And so there's new technologies folks can use to help capture those odors, but it's an option. So this is kind of a growing thing, you know, as we try to figure out how to deal with making the production of marijuana something that's a good neighbor to everybody. There's also just for your information, the Olympic Region Clean Air Authority also had a hearing in front of the Pollution Control Hearings Board in which the question came up of whether or not recreational marijuana is an agricultural product, which could be a game changer all around, but since that is protected under the Right to Farm Act, so any odors. So lots moving on air quality and marijuana right now. We had a phenomenal meeting of a combination of the law enforcement community and our behavioral health providers, trying to look for areas, what I explained last week of a sequential intercept model. We only had an hour to really walk through it, and there's 4 sections of this model, starting from the 911 call all the way to re-entry out of the jail. And so the decision was to concentrate our efforts on that first part of the first interaction with law enforcement and offenders whose behavioral health issues may be the primary cause of their offense. And there is an effort to bring forward some more 24-hour services for the jail and for law enforcement as they come bring folks to the jail. Our jail chief would like to see some of these folks who have more of a indication of a mental health issue or a behavioral health issue have a pre-screening by a mental health professional to see if it's more appropriate for them to be placed elsewhere. And so the Behavioral Health Organization is working really hard to try to provide those 24-hour services as well as expanded services for treatment in the jail. And I appreciate their efforts, and we'll be looking for some I'll be lobbying hard for additional resources to be brought to Mason County in this effort, and then we'll move on once we've got that in an area we think people are comfortable with. We've got a good protocol, then we'll move on down the whole line of this sequential intercept model. Met with a water use attorney regarding some proactive things we could be doing to maybe be ready to get some funding out of the state from that $300 million that was authorized for the Hearst decision. And it was a really interesting concept of making sure that we use the process of prioritization for the salmon recovery in the Hood Canal Quarrying Council called EDT, and I cannot remember the acronyms, what that means. But the idea of using that as a process to identify where are the limiting factors and be able to come to Department of Ecology and say, we've got the projects now. Because that money, as people are a little bit concerned, that money could easily be swallowed up by a Department of Ecology staffing. Apparently, they've already made a request for 24 new employees. So that money could go fast. So in order to make sure that money stays on the ground, I think it behooves us to be ready early on. Let's see, had babysitting duty over the weekend. Let's see, enjoyed the holiday then with my kids, my grandkids. Following today's meeting, I will be attending the League of Women Voters meeting to hear our Support Services Director speak to the League regarding the county budget processes. We have the Mason Transit Authority meeting this afternoon. Wednesday, I will be attending the Economic Development Council luncheon, and I understand our Support Services, or our Community Services Director is our featured speaker. That's good news. So I don't know if you other gentlemen will be there.
Which one is that?
That is Wednesday. And then I have a conflict of 2 meetings, 2 important meetings. The Hood Canal Quarrying Council Integrated Watershed Planning Group is going to prioritize some of their monies from the EPA monies that apply them towards the near-term actions. And there's a meeting to kind of queue up the projects that we think, or at least the areas that we want to do. And then I'll have to leave that early in order to attend the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging meeting, in which we will make a recommendation for a hopefully an approval for a new executive director for that agency. And then I've got some personal time scheduled, and then we'll be back here for an evening meeting on Tuesday, briefings on Monday, and then Tuesday, an evening meeting here at the commission.
Thank you. A few meetings from last week, though, I just want to highlight. I had really great meetings with Community Youth Services in their Olympia office, but they also have an office here in town, learning a little bit more about their programs and the services that they offer here for the community. Also met with Telecare, which I understand Telecare has worked diligently over the past year to be a part of the community and help with mental health diversion and crisis response. And I think we'll be hearing soon that they might be expanding some of their services, and certainly look forward to hearing and learning a little bit more about that. I think that's a great opportunity for us here. Also met with HOST and Consejo, two other organizations here in town that are doing some great work as well. Finally, I met with Kyle Kronk from the YMCA, South Sound YMCA, about their project, and we had a meeting with Danette Brandon from Mason Transit. Project the size and scale of bringing a YMCA here, they need a lot of partners, and Mason Transit is a natural partner in that. Helps when you want to bring people in from the rural areas to a more urban location to take advantage of the services. And so I was happy to connect those two organizations together and talk about how they could be partners in that project, and I'm excited about the potential there. I think they both will benefit greatly from that YMCA coming into town. Looking ahead to this week, after this meeting this morning, I'll be meeting with Dan Tudeberg from Washington State Extension. Also have a meeting up at the Port of Shelton later today, and then our Mason Transit meeting this afternoon. Tomorrow, bright and early, Criminal Justice Working Team meeting, and then I will be attending the EDC lunch as well. Courthouse security later this week, and then I have two times for mobile office hours. Thursday, I will be at the Hoodsport Library. That's February 22nd from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. And then Friday morning from 10:30 to noon, I'll be out at Fire District 12 in Elma. That's right across from Mary M. Knight School there. Also be attending the Sheriff's Breakfast. Then have a Legislative Steering Committee webinar on Friday afternoon with the Association of Counties. And I anticipate we'll be talking a lot about the supplemental budgets that were released, one yesterday and then one this afternoon. So getting a better idea on what is in those budgets and what we should be watching out for and what we can be supportive of. Then finally, this weekend I'll be attending the North Mason Chamber Gala Saturday evening. Back here for briefings on Monday. And then next Tuesday morning, I have a meeting with DSHS as well, and then back for our evening meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so last week I had meetings with Republic, the folks that handle our solid waste. Had a meeting of the law library, and within that, just to share some of the advances that are happening, it looks like we are going to be moving forward with putting in a computer for those in the public, accessible to the public there in the facility. They'll be able to walk up, use the computer, and go right onto the law library right at the courthouse. With that being said, we're also been moving forward. I've had conversations here recently with Cheryl at Timberland, and we'll be getting together further to have discussion with the law library with the hope of eventually putting the law library into the libraries. This way, everybody throughout our county can have access to that law library for their own personal benefit and protections. There's a reason why we do all this in the first place. It's in order to provide all that to our constituents so they can take care of themselves on issues that are before them. Let's see. I've met with several businesses. One is a brand new one that's just trying to open in Belfair. They just sold, so good luck to those at the Woodshed. And then another business that is looking to expand again. Man, I love hearing those words. Expansion is a wonderful thing, but they always need help when they can. People would be surprised what us commissioners do when it comes to businesses. Our job is to help them with anything, even if it's to go out and help pick up the trash if we have to. It's just to make sure that we can do what it takes to help them expand and increase our tax base. PTSA meeting, I also had some conversation meeting with some of the folks at Turning Point. Wonderful, wonderful organization, but even better than that, they are moving some of their services to North Mason. Now that may not seem like much, Mason County, but it's not. Having services that are actually available right there up in North Mason, up in Belfair, makes a difference because you're looking at a 30-mile drive. If you think about that, that's pretty hard for people that are in trouble to get an additional 30 miles away. So having services on the north end and the south end are very important, and I'm so thankful to them for reaching out there. They already have the location. They've already rented the office space, made arrangements for getting them their desks and chairs, and they're getting ready to open, and I think it's just wonderful. And I already mentioned Timberland Library. Sherlyn, we had a TPO meeting. Been talking a little bit with North Mason School Districts and some property owners. There's some possible great opportunities and news for the people of Belfair. If we can make some changes that will affect traffic, that would be incredible. I attended a fundraiser, a barbecue, which, by the way, the barbecue was wonderful, to raise money to stop human trafficking. I can't begin to tell you, and I won't from the bench here, just how big of a impact that has on our local community. People always think it's somewhere else. It's not. It's here. And being able to do something to try and help makes a difference. But just please, when you hear these opportunities for these fundraisers for things like human trafficking, please don't think that's New York or Los Angeles. That is Belfair and Shelton, and it affects all of us. So then Food and Fellowship meeting, I met with Public Works. I did a little ride around with Public Works there. It took off, but it was a small snow event, and just seeing some of the things that they do and trying to see how I can help them better. After this meeting, I will also be attending the League of Women Voters meeting. I will be meeting with Debbie Riley on the Shellfish Initiative. I have a Mason Transit Authority meeting also with the commissioners. I will also be attending the EDC annual, so I have it as annual, so that must be the annual luncheon. Election Canvassing Board, we will be meeting twice this week. So the final one will be for those final numbers. Meeting at the Hood Canal Lodge. I would like to be at the North Mason Gala, and I know I'm supposed to. I'm on their board as an ex officio member, but it's the father-daughter dance from Belfair Elementary. And a person has to decide what is the most important in life, and a 7-year-old little girl, this time I got to give it to her, folks, so please don't hold it against me that I'm not there representing us. I will represent us proudly in a gosh-awful big white suit that my daughter has picked out. That'll be more embarrassing than you could ever imagine, but you know what? For her, it's all worth it. Last year, what was it? The royal blue, or that wasn't royal, it was some sharp neon type blue zoot suit. So whatever it takes. Briefings in the North Mason Community Voice. That brings us back to our regular meeting. And we are still 2 minutes off. So with that being said, yeah, but we have to go by the actual time.
I have a quick question I'd like to ask
Sure.
Commissioner Schutte. So
Sure.
what will you be speaking with DSHS about? Do you have a topic?
No, just a kind of a introductory sort of lay of the land kind of meeting.
Which agency within, or which?
Well, so Todd Parker has been organizing all these meetings for me at my request. So it's DSHS and their, I guess, CSO, their program information.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yep. When I worked in the legislature, one of the constituents would always call in, and for looking for help for things, and one of the agencies that they ask for the most help from is DSHS, and so it really touches, I think, a lot of people in our community, and so I think they're certainly ever present, whether you like them or not. So
Very large agency,
yeah,
that's for sure.
All right, well, officially, we have reached 9:30, so
Hey,
we
I did it.
so we will open a public hearing. This is a public hearing to adopt the ordinance for procedures to determine water adequacy and to adopt an ordinance adopting amendments to the community development fee schedules. Staff, Dave Wyndham.
Okay. Excuse me. Of course, now it starts. Okay, good morning, Commissioners. This hearing is a follow-up to our action we took in January to approve the interim ordinance. So I'll go back through the staff report quickly, point out some changes, and then we can move forward from there. In response to the state legislature approving ESSB 1691, providing a long-term solution to the Hearst decision, staff prepared and the county adopted an emergency ordinance relating to the use of permit-exempt water withdrawals for development purposes. This has been prepared as an emergency ordinance so that the county can immediately comply with state law and process development permit applications dependent upon permit-exempt wells consistent with the new law. Staff has prepared a final permanent ordinance similar to this temporary one to take through the standard public review and approval process. This ordinance changes sections of Title 6 and Title 14 of Mason County Code. This ordinance differs from the previous interim water resource proposals that, pursuant to ESSB 1691, a hydrologic in-stream flow impairment analysis and mitigation are no longer required for new groundwater withdrawal applications. As you recall, that was the proposal we were looking at going forward with at the beginning of the year to look at having a hydrologic review of each application. Now, an applicant in WIRAs 14, 15, and 22 may now obtain approval for groundwater withdrawal, a well exempt from permitting under RCW 9044-050 for domestic use only with a maximum annual average withdrawal of 950 gallons per day in WIRAs 14 and 15, and 3,000 gallons per day maximum annual average withdrawal in WIRA 22. And on the map on the wall, you can see the different WIRAs. So 14 and 15 are, 950 gallons per day. WIRA 22 is 3,000. WIRA 16, no changes. They must also pay a fee of $500, $350 of which the county must forward to the Department of Ecology and must record any relevant restrictions or limitations associated with water supply to the property title. So we have changed our water adequacy form, adding a block. So when a person comes in, they pull up, the staff pulls up this map, determines where the property is located, and applies the correct gallonage to that form. The person then takes that form over here and has that recorded to the title before water adequacy is then approved. ESSB 6091 also contains provisions that immediately add to the county's watershed management work plan. The most noteworthy is that it directs the Department of Ecology to work with initiating governments and the planning units described in Chapter 9082 of RCW to update RIA 14 management plan by June 2021 to identify potential impacts of exempt well use, identify evidence-based conservation measures, and identify projects to improve watershed health. The watershed management plan must include recommendations for projects and actions that will measure, protect, and enhance in-stream resources and improve watershed functions that support recovery of threatened and endangered salmonids. Planning staff intends to send a joint letter to with the Squaxin Tribe to get clarification from Ecology on how much work from WIRA 14 from years past can be used to start this new process. And I'm open for questions.
Has there been any speculation if a plan is not approved by 2021, does that then affect the exempt well development?
Well, what will happen is if we don't approve a plan by 2021, then it goes to the Salmon Board and they'll make the determination.
Right, but if that, in that process, is some kind of deadline of 2021, does that affect well development? Do you
I don't know.
Has anybody speculated
I
legally?
have asked MRSC and have not gotten anything back.
Okay.
They're still sorting through this as well. There's 39 counties trying to look at how this affects things long term.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, we'll open it up for questions from the audience. Is anybody in the audience that has a question specific to this issue?
Conley.
Yes, I noticed that on you doing chip seal, that takes a certain amount of water. Does that 950 gallons a day require you to cut off?
You know, Conley, I don't know. That generally comes from a Group A water system. So that doesn't come from exempt wells. So typically that's something
Well, normally you get your water from a fire station, which is a county owned. And I noticed when you did Hartstein Island, you pick on Fox Lane
Okay.
because it has an abundance of water.
No, and I would have to refer you to Public Works, because that's
Okay.
not something that I'm really qualified to jump on. But typically, it seems like they use Group A water systems.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for staff? Yes.
Does this have any effect on home gardeners who use their home water system to water their gardens?
Okay, so under the legislation, it exempts, it has quarter-acre lawn, quarter-acre gardens included in the 950 or the 3,000 gallons.
Other questions?
So, and a fire break. Fire break is also, so let me clarify a little bit more then. So if the governor does issue a water drought emergency, then those waters that are affected, which would be 15, 14, and 22, will get scaled back to 350 gallons a day, no outdoor watering, with the exception of fire breaks.
So the 950 gallons is included for outdoor irrigation as well.
Further questions? Sure.
I have two questions. Number one, can you kind of explain where this map is and how big it is? Because I really can't tell.
Okay, so this map is on our planner's website, and this is pulled directly from Ecology.
What is it of? I mean, is it like the whole?
So in this, you might not be able to see, but there's the Mason County outline. It kind of fades in and out. So YRA 22 is on the southwest edge. YRA 14 is typically Johns Prairie, Goldsboro Creek watershed. YRA 15 goes northeast into Kitsap County, and 16 goes north into Jefferson.
Okay, so like where's Highway 3, for example, on that?
Okay, so Highway 3 will come in from the south and then kind of hook northeast.
That's Shelton, right?
Yeah.
No, the
So
purple
you can see
boot,
the Shelton UGA is outlined in the center.
see the
Oh,
purple,
okay, got it.
see that purple boot? That's the Hood Canal.
Yeah.
And Highway 3 goes around the side of it there.
Thank you. And then the next question is, where does the remainder of the $150 per permit go?
And it goes to the county to deal with the administrative cost of doing that.
Yes.
Hi,
Well, is it a testimony or a question?
it's written testimony?
I'll give you an opportunity to do that.
Thank
At this point, this is just for questions for staff in regards to his presentation. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
With that, is there any other staff presentation or anything? Hearing none, we'll move on to testimony, open testimony from the public. Now will be your opportunity to testify on this issue if you would like. Would you like to be first? We ask you to please come forward. We will identify you, and we ask that you please explain who you are and perhaps where you're from, and that'll help us to take it in.
Hi, thank you so much. Sharon,
Please step up to the podium. There's a microphone,
oh,
and everything's recorded for.
Sharon Hainsley, Squaxin Island Tribe, and I just have written comments, and I'll just submit those to you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Should I bring them?
You feel free if you'd like.
Thank you.
Sharon, I guess what's difficult for me is if we're intending to pass this today and there's some edits you're asking for in a written comment, I'd prefer to be able to entertain them now.
I understand, but we don't have a copy of what you're entertaining today. I tried to get it from the website, and I couldn't find it. So we're just assuming that what you're doing today looks just like the emergency
Is it on?
ordinance.
It's on the website, second
Yeah.
page.
The second page of what?
The homepage of the website? The regular meeting packet?
Yeah, it's in a regular meeting packet.
I looked at the regular reading packet. It was 178 pages, and I couldn't find the actual ordinance in there. I found at the very end, pages 177 and 178, I'm sorry if I missed it.
No, it's the same. No changes. Barbara's saying it's not there either, so.
Oh, yeah, so all I found was the agenda for today. I didn't know what exactly you were adopting today. So we assumed that it looked just like the emergency ordinance.
He says there was no changes. Commissioner, can we take a moment, please, and read this?
Sure.
Just go over this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like electronic copy.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to ask a point of clarification.
Would you mind coming back up to the podium for a moment?
In your second paragraph, you say, however, please understand that what are likely to be the proposed amendments. Do you mean amendments to 6091?
No, amendments to the water adequacy code, which I thought was what you were looking at.
We are, and that's why I'm saying, so you're proposing amendments to our code and these bullets, these bullets to be amended?
No, I'm sorry. Let me be more clear. So my understanding is today you're considering adopting amendments to the Mason County Water Adequacy Regulations, Chapter 6.68. And those are part of the update that you submitted to the Department of Commerce in updating your comprehensive plan and development regulations. So that was one set of amendments that you previously approved. Then today, my understanding is you're making new amendments, permanent amendments to those same regulations. And so our comments are intended to, we're assuming that those amendments to your regulations look like the ones in the emergency ordinance. And so today we are just providing comments on that. Thanks. Does that make sense?
But there's no specific recommendation in reading this that you're making that we apply to this hearing we're doing today?
Well, I don't know because I haven't looked at what you're doing today, to be quite honest.
It's the same that it was the last time that you had looked at it.
The emergency
Yes.
ordinance, yeah. We didn't provide comments on those. And to be honest, I mean, as you know, the tribe has appealed the updated ordinance and regulations to the Growth Management Hearings Board. And this is just intended to just kind of keep it all together and let you know that the tribe has concerns about the water adequacy issues.
So just to clarify, this is more just informative of what you believe where your stance is, not a specific request for a change in the ordinance.
Well, there are concerns about the ordinance. The ordinance. I really didn't intend to provide public testimony, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory in our comments.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to testify at this time? Hearing none, we will close public testimony and move into commissioner deliberations. Commissioners?
Well, I think that, thank you for bringing this forward. This is basically taking what's in the law that was passed by the legislature and applying it to the county code. And I don't know that we have the ability to go much further than that. I am taking it at face value, as every water law attorney in the state and every advocacy group tries to plow through 6091, what does it and does it not mean? One of the big questions I had was who was in charge of compliance regarding the gallon limit. And I've heard from multiple water use attorneys who have said that's Ecology's purview. It always has been, and it remains with Ecology. So I want to stand here and say I do not want this code to give any kind of responsibility to the county of going out and making sure that you're not using 951 gallons per day. And so I'm looking at the Squaxin Island Tribe's submitted testimony, and I think that there needs to be some acknowledgement that there's, I can't really tell in the kind of language you're using, but there's some sort of onus on the county in the tribe's opinion that that's our job. And I just wanted to say publicly it's not our job, and that's been maintained by some water use attorneys as I've spoken to. I think it's the spirit of the law to some extent that needs to be acknowledged. And short of any changes in how we go further to regulate permit exempt wells, I think that we're going to, in our enhancement and mitigation work that's due in like 2021, that'll be the opportunity to do some real mitigation and putting that water back into the aquifers at whatever level, whatever place. And then that will, in the whole calculation of how many gallons per day is this house limited to, et cetera, I think we can get there where we're adding more water back in. I truly do, than is being pulled. So I believe this is what we have to do to make sure that we can not cause any more disruption. I believe that we are on a good track to taking it further and actually creating more water into those aquifers, and then hopefully the streams, depending on how quickly that water does get to the stream itself. And I am in favor of approving these ordinances.
You have any comments, sir, that you'd like to?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would just make a couple of points. That to Commissioner Drexler's point, I think it's very much this is adopting the letter of the law, and we have work to do on the spirit of the law. I think one of the issues that we find in county government pretty regularly is that the legislature makes these decisions and we have to implement them. And so today, that's what we're doing. We're reacting to legislation that was passed in Olympia to the best of our ability, and we're gonna handle that here today, and make as we did a couple of weeks ago with the emergency ordinance. And that's all well and good, and I think it's what we have to do. But we do have to do other work as well, and I think we acknowledge that. In particular with the tribe, and we have to be mindful of our constituents. We have to be mindful of the needs of the people in the community, and we also have to be mindful of some of the concerns that the tribe has brought forward in the past and here again today, in order to get closer to achieving the spirit of the law, which ultimately is about being good stewards of the resource. And so today, I don't view those as being mutually exclusive by adopting today's ordinance. I think it's one more step in that direction. It's why we offered a memorandum of understanding to the tribe last fall to engage more fully in that work. I hope that is something that even though the comprehensive plan has been appealed, I hope that memorandum of understanding is still something that's on the table for discussion. I remember a meeting early last year, where we sat down with folks from the Squaxin tribe here in this room. And I remember the remark that I made close to the end of the meeting. It's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so I think we have to keep that in mind as we continue to work sort of in this post-Hearst environment, and continue to make progress on achieving the spirit of the law. And so with that, I do support today's ordinance with the understanding that this is one of many steps to come.
I also am supportive of this measure. It was brought forward, as was explained, as the remedy for what the state had done to fix the issue at the state level. We're not doing a great deal more than that, or doing no less than that, so we are addressing exactly what they've asked us to address, and we're taking on the requirements that the state has required. With that being said, there is a comment here that says that we failed to include measures to protect surface water and fisheries in the rural areas as the GMA requires, including to ensure that users won't exceed the 950 gallons per day or the 350 gallons per day connections ceilings established in SB 6091, or a means to enforce those ceilings. Now, I think that's a jump personally about what we're supposed to be doing here on this. I understand you're connecting that to the comprehensive plan, but on our code right now, I think there are separate parts in here. To explain to the public what that would mean if we were to adopt that, I think the state purposely did not put us in that position because of what it would take in order to make that happen. Automatically, what that would mean is anybody that puts in a well is going to would have to put in a meter. So that's another cost, and a high cost for anybody who wants to put in a new well. But more than that, then the county would have to hire meter readers to go out and read all those meters with no income coming in like a water company or a power company So we get no revenue, we just have to be hiring people to go out and read all these meters. if it
Without
was
the
to-
authority to do so.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the last line, the means to enforce those ceilings. We have a hard enough time with enforcement. We're gonna have our sheriff's department, or our prosecuting attorneys enforcing all that. So that's a big ask. It's a giant ask. And I wanna just point out that although we wanna try to work with the tribes, it has to be realistic on what we could even possibly pull off. And I don't think our constituents could afford to do something like that. With that being said, I would be also in favor of it. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the adoption of ordinance for procedures to determine water adequacy and ordinance adopting amendments to the community development fee schedule as presented.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance for procedures to determine water adequacy and ordinance adopting amendments to the community development fee schedules as presented. Any further discussion?
No.
I'd just like to thank our staff for putting all this together. This has been a scary time for our community with all the things we've had to go through, and they were well prepared when this did come down because of all the work they had done. So thank you to all of our staff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Is there anything further to come before this commission? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Paula?